Today, I'm going to tell you about the 23 new games for the PS5 coming in 2025. So let's get started. Assassin's Creed Shadows will be released for the PlayStation 5 at the beginning of 2025. The game, dedicated to Japanese assassins, promises to bring back classic parkour, dual attacks, and the cooperative mode familiar from Unity. One of the first new releases we'll see is Kingdom Come 2. This time the action will move from the countryside to large cities, including the metropolis of Kutna-Hora. The gameplay will be similar to the first part, but bigger and better in all aspects. In the middle of 2025, Dying Light the Beast is expected to be released. A large expansion to the second part that grew so big it was decided to release it as a standalone game. Dying Light the Beast promises about 30 hours of gameplay, a new city infected by the virus, improved combat with parkour elements, and will finally conclude the storyline of the main character from the first game. Another new release is Metal Gear Solid Delta, a remake of the third part of Metal Gear Solid. While it's almost a word-for-word recreation of the original from the PS2, it has been modernized for current consoles. Among the PlayStation exclusives, we should highlight Ghost of Yutei, the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. However, the second part won't be a direct continuation. It will feature a new time period, new locations, and a different main character. This time the story will focus not on the honor of a samurai, but on the struggles of a woman during the times of feudal wars. Another highly anticipated exclusive is a new Wolverine game from Insomniac Games. Initially planned for 2025, the project may face a delay after the unofficial spread of game content, causing the developers to possibly reconsider its release date. Also among the expected PlayStation exclusives for next year is the sequel to Death Stranding, a new game by Hideo Kojima. We'll once again take control of a character portrayed by Norman Reedus and continue traveling through a post-apocalyptic world, delivering packages despite harsh weather and the threat of invisible monsters. To wrap up the PlayStation exclusives for 2025, it's worth mentioning Horizon Online, a massive MMORPG set in the Horizon universe, which has been in development for several years. It's expected to launch in the middle or later part of the year. Sony has high hopes for this project, which promises visuals that will meet the franchise's high standards. However, the most anticipated game of 2025 is GTA 6, a project that's already being hailed as a masterpiece and the best game of next year. However, we likely won't see a revolution, but rather a well-executed evolution of the ideas from the fifth installment, with a focus on online modes and a massive but perhaps not overly dense world. In mid-2025, Indiana Jones: The Great Circle will be released on the PS5. Originally an Xbox exclusive, it was unexpectedly announced for PlayStation 5 as well. As for the game itself, Indiana Jones: The Great Circle promises a classic adventure in the spirit of Uncharted, but with a first-person perspective and Harrison Ford reprising his role. A similar release pattern applies to S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. The game will launch on Xbox at the end of 2024, but won't arrive on PlayStation 5 until mid-2025. This could actually be an advantage, as developers might make improvements by the time the PS5 version is ready. Also coming to PS5 in 2025 is Doom: The Dark Age, the third part of the modern Doom series. It's a fast-paced shooter where players battle enemies in a grim medieval world set to heavy metal music. Unlike S.T.A.L.K.E.R and Indiana Jones, this game will be available on PlayStation immediately upon release, with no long wait. My personal favorite for 2025 is Monster Hunter Wilds, a new game in the Monster Hunter franchise. It's been in development for over 5 years and promises to be the most expansive installment in the series. In addition to an open world, we can expect dynamic weather changes, an intriguing story spanning dozens of hours, and many new monsters. Another game I'm eagerly anticipating is the remake of the first Max Payne. No major changes are expected. It'll simply be a modernized version of the classic shooter on a new engine. Finally, the 9th installment of Resident Evil, subtitled Apocalypse, is one of the most anticipated games of 2025. Although little information is available, insiders claim that it will be the largest game in the Resident Evil universe, bringing together all the iconic characters, from Leon Kennedy to Claire Redfield. Another interesting release set for mid-2025 is the remake of the first Gothic. The remake promises to expand the mechanics of the original, double the size of the game map, and turn the intimate story about prisoners in a colony into a grand 40-hour adventure. At the end of 2025, the release of Phantom Blade Zero is expected. With PlayStation funding, they are developing their own version of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice using Unreal Engine 5. Whether it will match the success of Black Myth Wukong remains to be seen, but the game has already attracted the attention of many gamers and is among the most anticipated projects of the year. Also arriving at the end of 2025 is a new game in the Mafia series titled Mafia Old Country. This game will serve as a prequel to the entire franchise, telling the story of events that took place in the 1920s in Sicily. Once again, we'll see real mafiosos in the style of the classic Mafia, rather than modern crime stories. One of the most mysterious new releases of 2025 is Hell Is Us, a futuristic third-person action game that combines dark fantasy with military themes. Despite the unusual mix of genres, the game has generated a lot of interest. If Ubisoft manages to overcome its challenges, we may see Far Cry 7 in 2025. Rumors suggest it will be a reboot of the series, introducing new gameplay approaches, abandoning the traditional open world, implementing time-limited story campaigns, and featuring a third-person perspective. Although strategy games aren't very popular on consoles, we can't overlook Civilization 7. Numbered entries in this series come out only once per generation, and always take the genre to the next level, offering a unique strategic experience. Once again, players will guide their empire from the Stone Age to interstellar travel. At the end of 2025, a new Borderlands game is expected. While details are scarce, the developers promise it will be one of the most successful entries in the series. All online and co-op modes will be available at launch, addressing a key feature missing from previous games. Also coming at the end of 2025 is a new installment of Battlefield. Developers are promising compact, engaging multiplayer maps and the return of a full-fledged story campaign, which was lacking in recent installments. These were the most exciting games expected for PlayStation 5 in 2025, not counting annual releases like Call of Duty, FIFA, and other sports simulators. Thanks for watching the video all the way through. If you enjoyed this overview of 2025 games, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future episodes. See you in the next video.